Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, I'm gonna create a playlist, as I've said in the first video, with all my different responses to several points over hour-long discussion between Mikhaila Peterson, Mohammed Hijab, and Ayaan. Okay, so I'm passionate about this topic. I've made a video on it in the past in my old playlist. Like, I think I titled it "One Woman, Four Men, One Man, Four Women," something like that. But Ayaan mentioned how four four wives are given to a man, but a woman can't have four husbands. And you know what's so disgusting about her personality is that it doesn't highlight how a woman cannot satisfy four men equally with justice every week. Okay? And that it's way more disgusting and smelly and stinky for a woman to smell and be covered in semen by four different men. And the percentage of men who will tolerate that are usually heavily mentally abused men who have trauma issues, zero masculinity, and we all know the word for them, the C word, right? They are not going to want to have intercourse with a woman who's pregnant with another man's baby. And no decent woman would want to be pregnant with another man's baby and sleep with three other guys. Who could do something like that? Who could stomach something like that? A very inverted, polluted, sinful soul, right? If a woman wants to have four husbands, she also must recognize she doesn't have the beauty standard to satisfy all four of those men. She cannot pay for all of their meals. She's expecting them to pay for her lifestyle. Few men are gonna marry a woman. Four dudes ain't gonna marry one woman, fund her lifestyle, and then when she's old and they no longer have use for her, and they still have their vitality to stay loyal to a woman like that when they watch three other dudes plow her on the regular. It's just not going to happen. And it is mentally traumatizing for a daughter to see her mom get passed around four dudes. But a boy can see four wives and it feels way more like the natural order. Way more like the natural order. Because wives have a different purpose of breastfeeding, nurturing, cooking, cleaning, and a way more feminine vibe. But a woman who's pregnant and her daughter sees her pregnant mother get passed around four dudes is completely disgusting. I mean, at least just so disgusting. At least a sex worker, she's paid to leave. She's not paid to stay. She's paid to leave, right? So she goes and does her business, but she knows, she has to use drugs. She has to intoxicate herself. She has to maintain this sort of mental illness, illusionary state of affairs that allows her to continue in her business, right? And most of those women, whether feminists like to hear this or not, didn't have a good mother or father. And their fathers, if they were good, have chastised them for that line of work. No good father would want their daughter to have four husbands, all soft, kind of weaselly, sniveling, small-shouldered men who have no protective jealousy and, are just going to hand money over to her. She's not even going to respect those men at the end of the day. And she will probably lust for the guy who ignores her and puts her in her place. Okay? It's so perverted that Ayaan, in the age of hedonism, the age of Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, pornography addictions, human trafficking, and other affairs, that she would advocate for the most satanic form of existence, which is a woman having four husbands. The prophets are, how do I put it? So Abraham had more than one partner, right? King Suleiman, Prophet Suleiman, had more than one wife. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had more than one wife. Khalid bin al-Walid had more than one wife. We have to recognize that men are different. Okay? The rooster, the bull, the dog. These are all signs for people who reason that there is a different order for testosterone and estrogen, okay? These evolutionary people love talking about animals, but then look at the lion, and then they look at all these examples of the male having multiple females. And then they take the one example of a stupid bonobo and then extrapolate that to humans in a very absurd degree. And so, no, Ayaan Hersey, a woman should not have 4 husbands because her tissue downstairs cannot handle it. And then, if her tissue in one hole can't handle it and you're advocating for sodomy, this is even more sinful and dangerous to women's health. Okay? Because in their old age, they won't be able to hold in their gas or their bowels, and they will have problems in tearing and have more diseases that are passed through feces. Okay? It's completely unhygienic. So, if you're going to advocate for a pregnant woman who's knocked up with one of her husband's babies to be servicing on her knees to another husband, and then another husband watches, you're advocating for perversion while saying that a man having multiple righteous, pious wives is the bad part. Do you not see the strange irony there? Right? That a man, he can serve multiple women fine in a day. Men are built different. Women are tender down there. If it's too rough, she has to take a break for the next day. She can get swollen. She kind of wants to take a nap. Now, all women are super hot nymphs. They're always hot-blooded. It's just not how it works, And if she starts to get fat, the men ain't going to like her. And he's just standing around waiting. Whereas a man, he can have intimacy with all his wives and then go work on the farm. Men are just built different, and you have to be honest about that. Honest about male biology, male psychology, both in nature and spiritual affairs. Okay? It's absolutely horrendous to slander polygamy and to then advocate that a woman have 4 husbands. Any woman who can control 4 men has done some sort of occultic ritual or mental abuse, some sort of degradation to that man where he no longer has a spine, he no longer has dignity, he no longer has honor, and he's not even worthy to be anyone's husband. And he deserves to have 4 wives himself and not stand in line while, 3 other dudes plow her, right? It's just not the way it works. No matter how much feminism and liberalism and the hedonists try to brainwash you into this, it doesn't work. And that's why so many OnlyFans models and so many strippers around the age of 32 start to get desperately lonely because they've been given a record of being passed around. Some women, if they have a little experience, 2 dudes, 3 dudes, and then they get married, their partner can forgive them and enjoy what they have learned to a certain level. But once you start getting to 20 men, 50 men, 100 men, 200 men, like in these TikTok body count challenges, then you're going beyond. And then if you're going to sit here and tell us that men would be willing to have a woman like that, it's just not going to work, who's passed around. And every video I've seen of a woman who has multiple husbands, she's fat, she's ugly, and the men are nothing short of Jerry from Rick and Morty, let's put it that way. And no self-respecting man would tolerate that, and no mother would let her son enter into an affair like that. Whereas polygamy is a mercy because a woman who has a child, she can be a co-wife in her own area to a righteous, practicing, disciplined, semi-wealthy, maybe moderately wealthy man, and have a place to go instead of living off the government. Why does Ayaan Hersey want women to be off on welfare, prostituting themselves, instead of in the safety of marriage? Polygamy is marriage, responsibility, stability, love, affection, right? And instead, she'd rather what? Women do OnlyFans, prostitute themselves, live off the government. It's just ridiculous. So, men, good men, if they have the finances and want to have a 2nd, 3rd, 4th wife, and the women are consenting adults, there is nothing wrong with that. No one is forced to get married into a polygamous relationship, right? It is way more honorable and adds to the man's testosterone, his character, his development, his discipline, to have 4 virtuous, loving wives, wonderful children, and to populate his new tribe, right? His new network family. 4 dudes have to wait 9 months to get their sperm into the woman. It's a slower process, more gross, and there's going to be some danger to the child because one of those fathers might molest the child. It's very unsafe for the child to be around those kind of stepdads and stuff, or co-fathers. Whereas a father with multiple wives, it's very rare that any of the women are molesters of their co-wives' children. Okay? It's just, they're very different. So it's so disgusting how Ayaan Hersey mentioned this cliche that is so easily debunkable of, well, a man can have 4 wives, but a woman can have 4 husbands. It's like, if you want a woman to, be just spreading it for every guy, just say that. But don't tear down the sanctity of marriage and the total difference between a man with 4 wives versus a woman with 4 husbands. Because the way a family grows, children, the financial stability, and the gender roles, right? And what is ordained in Islam, and sorry, but Abraham, may Allah be pleased with him, was polygamous in the Bible as well. And there is polygamy in the Bible. Okay? You can't sit here and say that that's something unnatural, a man to have multiple partners. It is unnatural for a man who respects his soul to allow his woman to be passed around 3 men. Only broken, unworthy, distorted, inverted souls would have that. And they probably don't love her enough to protect her. And that's not healthy to bring a child into that. Are you my dad? Are you my dad? Are you my dad? No, it's just not going to work. It's just, a boy doesn't want to see his mom get plowed by 4 dudes. Ayaan Hersey is a joke, man. So disgusting. Just thinking about it. I had to get kind of potent with my examples because that's the kind of heat you have to bring to these insane women who think that that's an actual valid point when it's a cliche. That when you lay it out on paper, when you dig deep into the details, you can see this completely absurd. Completely absurd. It's just so insane, it's just ridiculous. So, man, I thought I'd share that with you. And she also mentioned the inheritance, how it's different. Well, men have more financial responsibility than women in Islam, so naturally, the girl's going to get less because she has a dowry, right, when she gets married. Her father has a duty to take care of her. The males in the family are also going to take care of her if something happens to her. That's why women are given less, because they have less financial burden. The men have way more financial burden. They're the leaders of the family. They take more risks. They are the ones who have to be the financial backbone of the family. So they're going to get more. Okay? This type of, well, women getting much as men stems from the feminist talking point of, a woman makes less than men in the wage gap, which is total nonsense, right? So we women don't need the same amount of money when we do. If the woman isn't working, she's not having any financial responsibility. She's taken care of by her father and her husband and her brothers and her uncles. She doesn't need all that money to then go buy dresses, to just save it and hoard it. No, it needs to go towards bills. And if you say, well, she'll pay the bills, that's not her job. That's not the gender roles. She's going to go start a company. She's going to go start a business. She can get that investment from her family, from the male guardians, but the men have been given their role, and we accept that role. That doesn't mean she can't have her allowance. She can't have some spending money, but the inheritance is different because men have different financial responsibilities. So I'm a reaver and I can already see the holes in her stuff, so it's just so odd. She's just too, I don't know, it's just too easy. So I'll let you see some of my other reactions later. But let me know What do you think?